All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I want to do one thing. It won't look like much because it isn't much, but for my homepage, after I've got where is that? After I have the menu with all the welcome and all the, in fact, before that, after the website review. So after that, let's see. I'm going to put in a BR tag here. Let's see if it does what I think it's going to do. Okay, so I've got a little bit of coloring in there. Okay, I didn't have to do that. Maybe you don't like that. I don't know. But that's fine. This has probably got too much padding in it right now. Okay, it's a little bit inflated, but I'm just going to leave it all the way it is. So I've got that, and I've got that about. Okay, and I'm okay with the way everything looks right now. All right, I want to go back to my style file, my styles.css. Not that one. It's a different one, different thing that I've been working on. But there it is. Okay, I want to come down here, and we left off with the MPG image. So I'm going to put in, I'm going to have an ordered list a little bit later. And I want that to have a line height of 2.5 ems. And I want it to have a margin of 5 pixels. Okay, I want to finish filling this out now, otherwise I'll just forget to do it. And there's like 3 more things to do. All my labels that I'm going to be putting in on my forms, I want labels to display, whoa, hello. Inline block. I want them to have a width of 150 pixels. So all makes sense as we go on. The text alignment, I want to be centered. I want some right padding, 5 pixels. And I want some bottom padding of 15 pixels. Okay. I'm going to have a submit button. So I'm going to give it an ID of submit. And that will have a left margin of 350 pixels. All right, and last thing to do is I'm going to have a span, and I want to make sure that my spans are going to be red. Okay, I can save that. Now the good news is I should, opportune word there being should, be done with all my CSS now. Okay, and the other thing is this shouldn't look any different because all the stuff I've changed is for stuff I haven't put on here yet. Oh, I guess I need to, if I want to, if I want to put a blank, let's get rid of that. I don't really like the way it looks. I don't see where it's adding anything, so. Our index, let's get rid of that BR tag. Come back to here, fresh, there it is. There's home, there's about. All right, right now the about page isn't there, and the contact page isn't there. So let's do some work to put in the oh, sorry. All right, sorry about that. So far, what we have done in here is we've got our first page done and our second page is done. And again, if you say, well, we can't see this, we could always shrink this down if we needed to. All right, we could do that if we really wanted to or needed to. All right, I'm not worried about it though. It looks fine the way it is. All right, they're not exactly the same size either. Again, that's fine. We put a width on here. We didn't put a height. If we wanted them to be the same size, I guess we could put a height on there. That's not that important to me. If it is to you, again, as always, you could go in and you could make changes to that then. All right, to make that so. So let's go in and put in our next page. So since this page isn't too, the index has got a lot on it. So let's go Do I have that reset file? I want to double check. Oops, that's interesting. Oh boy, that's why when I did the reset before it didn't look any different. Because I saved the wrong file. Alrighty, I'm glad I kept this one up here. So, let's take this, do a file, save as, oops, yeah, that's fine, as reset. We want to save that as reset. You'll say you want to overwrite it. Yes, we do. All right, that's the file. That's our reset file there. Okay. So our reset's done. Our index is done. We're going to write our script file in a minute. We're done with our CSS also. But I'm going to take the about file that we have right here, and I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to save that as MPG. MPG mpg.html. All right, so this will be our MPG. All right, it's coming together. And where it's got about right here, well, we don't want that to say about anymore. We want this to say miles. How about this? We'll just say mpg-jQuery, because we're going to do this with jQuery. All right, I'm a little anal about things, so I'm going to do an open, and I'm going to open up the about page. Get rid of that. All right, so here's our MPG, and what we're going to do in here is we don't need any of these paragraphs. We will put in a paragraph at the bottom. I'm not going to worry about that. Oops, I'm not going to worry about that right now. All right, so for right now, boom. So in other words, if I go to run this right now, not very much in there, as you can see, okay? Which is fine. It's just fine the way it is. All right, because we're going to start making some changes there. All right, I am getting another phone call, so I have to pause for just a moment. All right, sorry about that. Hopefully I won't get any more calls. So what I'm going to put in here is an image. Let's double check and make sure that that image came up okay. There it is. Good. Again, don't worry about that. We're going to be filling stuff in. So the majority of what's left in here, for now at least, is we want to go in and we want to put in a form. So we're going to have a form both on this page and on the next page. Let's give this form an ID. We'll call it MPG underscore form. We'll give it a name, which is the same thing. And if you are confused over that, or if I never said this before, the reason that you use both an ID and a name is the name is used by server-side languages and the ID by client-side. In particular, the ID is used by JavaScript. We're not going to make it go anywhere, so the action is just going to equal to double quote, and the method, we'll just set it equal to get. That's fine. All right. In fact, all of that stuff, stupidly, should have gone right here. There we go. That's why it's yellow and it should be yellow. All right. So let's start to fill this in. Now, if I want to, I can, let's take a look at it first. In fact, there's one more thing I want to put in here, and that's a span tag. All right, so let's take a look at what this looks like now. So there's our first field, our miles driven. Okay, that looks a little funky. Oh, I guess I'd have to blow this back up again. So that's the way that it should look. Okay, and this is all fine. It really is. Don't worry, everything will end up working its way down, etc. as we go. See, there's our home page, there's our about page, and right now there's our MPG page. But again, it'll work its way out, so to speak, in just a minute. So that's the first thing. Then we want another. We're almost going to put the same thing in, so I'm just going to copy, paste, and this one will be called gallons, and it'll say gallons used. We don't need it, but if we want, we can put a colon there and a colon there. You oftentimes see that in there. Type is text, ID is gallons, and here it's gallons. Now, if I want to, okay, if I want to, I could put number in here instead of text, and I could give it a minimum and a maximum. I could have done that. All right, I'm just going to leave it for now, at least the way it is. I may or may not want to change that later. Then finally, I'm going to do this one more time, because we've got our gallons used, or I'm sorry, we've got our miles driven, we've got our gallons used, and now we want to put in our actual MPG. So let's take a look at it now, and you can see it's now really coming into form, so to speak. All right, so we've got all that stuff done, and what's left? Well, I want to put in some buttons down below here. And, oh, the other thing too is the miles per gallon. I do want to set that up so we're not able to change that, because once you put in a gallons used, etc., you know, you don't want to be able to allow the person to change that. So in here, I'm going to put in disabled. All right. And next, we're going to come in here, and that doesn't have a span because that would make no sense. But we'll put in about 3 line breaks. All right, and we'll have a div here with a class of float left. And these will be our buttons. So input type equal button, ID equal calculate, name equal calculate, both with lowercase, value, which is what's going to be on the button, equals calculate with a big C. Where's that? Come on. So that's calculate, and we'll give it a class of submit. All right, so that's that. So let's see what that did. That added our first button, which should have been pushed over, and it's not, and I'm not sure why, but we'll have to look at that. And then we're going to put in another button. So I'm just going to grab everything from here, copy it to the clipboard, paste that in. Again, ID button. This one will be, the ID will be clear, the name will be clear, the value will be clear, and it'll have no class associated with it. All right, we'll end our div and we'll put in a couple line breaks. All right, but right up above our footer, we're going to put a paragraph tag in here. And we're going to say to calculate the miles per gallon, which is really MPG. Put an ordered list in here. And you know, just like an unordered list, an ordered list is made up of list items. All right, we'll have 3 of them. Okay, the first one, get the miles traveled from the trip odometer, or subtract the original odometer reading from the current one. Okay, next, divide the miles driven by the number of gallons of gas used to determine the MPG. And then finally, the result will be your car's average MPG for the current driving period. Okay, and after we end this, let's put in a few more line breaks to push that down a little bit. And let's take a look at our handiwork here. Now, it's not going to be operational yet, of course, because we didn't put any JavaScript in. So, let's move that down. So, here's our site. There's our home page. Here is our About page. And here is our MPG page. It's by no means perfect. All right, by no means perfect, but it's rounding together. I mean, it's looking okay. All right, let's check our time here. All right, we're at 18 minutes. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put in the JavaScript, and there's not a lot of it, but there's enough that I'm going to create a new lecture, and in the next lecture, I'm going to go and put in or add the associated JavaScript. So I'll be back to do that shortly.